When it comes to overlanding, is it better to have an automatic transmission or a manual transmission? Not everybody is going to agree on this, but I'm team manual transmission all the way.
And I know I'm a millennial, so I'm not supposed to know about the third pedal. But I found out somehow. So here's the main reason I prefer a manual transmission for overlanding.
It is less likely to leave me stranded. As simple as that. Every vehicle will have mechanical issues eventually, but the hard line for me is when it does, will it leave me stranded, or will I be able to keep moving forward? And a vehicle with a manual transmission is simply less likely to leave me stranded. And that's what matters most to me when picking a vehicle to travel through remote areas and multiple countries where the availability of parts and well-equipped mechanics can be a concern. Now, there are certain things that you do have to worry about with a manual transmission that you would not have to worry about with an automatic. Those are focused mostly around the clutch and clutch assembly. Of course, if your clutch is wearing out and you're paying attention, you'll know it well before the vehicle becomes undrivable. You could also experience an issue that makes your clutch pedal ineffective, like a problem with your master or slave cylinder. But you could still start the vehicle in first gear and then rev match to shift. So while these aren't problems that you would have with an automatic transmission, they're also not problems that are likely to leave you stranded either. And once you do get to a mechanic, they're much more likely to be familiar with the basic operations of a manual transmission, and may even have the parts on hand to fix it and get you on your way. On the other hand, if you have problems with the precise inner workings of an automatic transmission, or the computers that control it, your vehicle could be stuck in neutral, or worse yet, in park, making it so that you can't move the vehicle, or if it's stuck in gear, the vehicle may refuse to start. In any case, your vehicle has left you stranded. And if you do get help and manage to get your vehicle to a mechanic in a small town, they're unlikely to have any computer diagnostic tools, so they'll have a much more difficult time diagnosing and fixing your automatic transmission compared to the simpler, more familiar manual transmission. Driving a vehicle with a manual transmission can also prevent you from being stranded as the result of a dead starter or undercharged starter battery, since you can push start a vehicle with a manual transmission, but it's simply not an option if you have an automatic. So there you go. The main reason that I drive a vehicle with a manual transmission when overlanding is because I don't want to get stranded. But there are other reasons. For one, they're cheaper. Both new vehicles and used vehicles tend to be cheaper if they have a manual transmission compared to their automatic counterparts. I also get better fuel efficiency with my manual transmission than I would with an automatic. The 1995 Toyota T100 with four-wheel drive, a V6 engine, and a manual transmission has an EPA rating of 16 miles per gallon combined city highway, while the same vehicle with an automatic transmission has an EPA rating of 15 miles per gallon. It's only 1 mile per gallon, but that equates to 24 miles per tank, and 24 miles is a long walk if I run out of fuel. And of course, putting less money in the fuel tank always helps out with the travel budget. If you're looking at newer vehicles, this may not be the case anymore, as newer automatic transmissions have more gears, including overdrive, and tend to be more efficient. Finally, the last reason I prefer a manual over an automatic is that the manual gives you more control over your transmission. And this can be really useful when you're hauling a lot of weight, so all the time when you're overlanding, and you are ascending or descending steep roads, like going over a mountain pass. When climbing a hill, you can select a gear in your manual transmission that puts your vehicle at the ideal speed and RPM to accomplish the ascent. With an automatic transmission, and particularly in older vehicles, the transmission may be prone to hunt, switching gears up and down regularly. And this, plus the weight and the incline, can lead to the transmission overheating. During a descent, the manual transmission can be used to slow the vehicle with the compression of the engine. This is known as engine braking. You can do this with an automatic transmission as well, just not with the same level of control. If you shift an automatic into first or second or low, depending on what your vehicle manufacturer calls it, the vehicle will try to stay in a lower gear and provide some engine braking. But most automatics will eventually upshift to a higher gear and provide less engine braking if the engine RPMs get too high. So you need to rely more on your brakes with an automatic and may need to stop on long descents to allow the brakes to cool. Having more control of your transmission can also be very useful while off-pavement driving. The ability to engine brake is often very useful while off-roading, just like it was on-road. And being able to select and maintain a gear is useful in low traction situations, particularly when driving at any speed. Similar to selecting a desired gear during an ascent, a driver may want to do the same for a particular terrain like soft sand. This allows the driver to approach the challenge with a desired RPM and continue to provide constant power to the wheels. With an automatic transmission, the vehicle will upshift at a certain RPM, but then may not be able to maintain that higher gear once it sinks into the soft sand or begins an incline, and may try to downshift, potentially dropping power to the wheels at a bad time. Then, re-engaging power to the wheels and potentially breaking traction. When the vehicle tires lose traction and spin, the RPM of the engine will jump up and the automatic transmission will drop power to the wheels again as it upshifts. And the cycle continues until the vehicle gets stuck, makes it through the obstacle, or the transmission overheats from constantly shifting under load. I use soft sand as an example here because I've experienced this exact behavior from every automatic transmission I've ever taken down to Baja, including multiple Chevy Suburbans and Ford F-Series trucks from the 1990s and a 2009 Toyota Tacoma. Okay, I think I've made it pretty clear at this point that I prefer a manual transmission for overlanding. But I'm going to go ahead and try to anticipate the next question that I'll get, which I think is going to be, would I go overlanding in a vehicle that had an automatic transmission? The answer is yes. If I owned a vehicle with an automatic transmission and I trusted it for the trip that I had planned, then of course I would still drive that vehicle, and I would appreciate the ease of driving it through crowded cities or while I'm trying to eat tacos on the highway. If the vehicle didn't already have it, I'd probably install a transmission temperature gauge and maybe a transmission cooler depending on how hard you're planning on pushing it. Automatic transmissions are gaining popularity worldwide, so availability of parts and experienced mechanics should become less of an issue. Newer automatics are also getting better fuel efficiency than they used to, and vehicle manufacturers are trying to give the driver's way of communicating with their automatic transmission via the computer to adjust for different driving conditions. So I would say that the gap between the automatic and manual transmissions for overlanding is closing. But at present, I would still go for the manual transmission, particularly if you're like me and your budget puts you in a situation where you're shopping vehicles with over 200,000 miles on them. Share your opinion in the comments section below. Automatic or manual, what are you driving and why? And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on any future content. At this point, I want to say thanks to Joby for supplying me with a couple of wireless microphones and a GorillaPod. The microphones come with lapel mics, which you may have noticed me using in the last few videos. I know that during our travel series, people would complain about the quality of the audio, so I'm really excited to step up our production quality with these new Joby microphones, and hopefully you'll just keep enjoying the content even more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.